Dr. Kim Woo sat in metal chains inside the great council chamber. His hands were locked behind his back. His feet were chained to the floor. The chains were cold against his skin and heavy enough to hurt his shoulders. But Kim Woo kept his head up and looked straight ahead at the 7 alien beings who would decide if he lived or died. The council chamber was huge. The walls were made of black stone that seemed to eat light. 7 tall chairs sat in a circle around Kim Woo. Each chair held a different kind of alien. Their eyes were all watching him. Some eyes were large and black, others were small and red. One alien had no eyes at all, just holes in its head that glowed with blue light. Kim Woo had been sitting here for 3 hours. His legs hurt and his back ached, but he did not complain. He knew that showing weakness would make things worse for him. He had seen what happened to other humans who broke down crying in this chamber. They were never seen again. Ambassador Teth stood up from the largest chair. Teth was a Villani, a species that looked like giant insects with too many arms. His voice sounded like metal scraping against stone when he spoke. "Human Kim Woo," Teth said, reading from a glowing tablet in one of his 4 hands. "You stand accused of breaking the sacred preservation laws. You have tried to change dead worlds with Earth life. You have created plants that should not exist. You have refused to accept that some things must stay the same forever." Kim Woo said nothing. He had already tried to explain his work to these aliens. They did not want to understand. They were afraid of what humans could do, and fear made them cruel. Teth continued reading the charges. "You grew plants that could live in poison air. You made crops that could eat deadly metals. You created life forms that changed the worlds around them. The council has decided these actions are too dangerous to allow." Another council member stood up. This one was a Korthak, a species that looked like walking trees with silver bark. The Korthak's voice sounded like wind through leaves. "Human Kim Woo, do you understand why your actions are forbidden?" Kim Woo finally spoke. His voice was calm and clear. "I understand that you are afraid of change. I understand that you have kept the galaxy the same for millions of years. I understand that you think dead worlds should stay dead forever." "Yes," the Korthak said. "Dead worlds are sacred. They are monuments to the past. They must not be disturbed." "Even if people are dying?" Kim Woo asked. "Even if whole planets are sick and getting worse every day? Even if there are ways to help them?" Teth's insect eyes glowed with anger. "That is exactly why humans are dangerous. You think you can fix everything. You think you know better than beings who have ruled the galaxy since before your species learned to make fire." Kim Woo looked around at all 7 council members. Each of them represented a species that was millions of years old. They had built huge empires among the stars. They had technologies that seemed like magic. But they had also decided that nothing important should ever change. "I do not think I know everything," Kim Woo said quietly. "But I know that life wants to grow. I know that sick things want to get better. I know that dead things do not have to stay dead forever." The 3rd council member was a Zephyrian, a being made of living crystal that sparkled with inner light. When it spoke, its voice sounded like singing. "Human Kim Woo, your species has only been traveling among the stars for 200 years. We have been here for millions of years. We have learned that some changes are too dangerous to allow." "What changes?" Kim Woo asked. "Changes that spread too fast," the crystal being replied. "Changes that cannot be controlled. Changes that might destroy the careful balance we have built." Kim Woo thought about his laboratory back on Earth. He thought about the small plants he had grown there. They were hybrids that mixed Earth genetics with alien materials. They could survive in conditions that would kill normal plants. They could clean poison from soil and air. They could turn deadly waste into good food for other living things. The Yar Council called this dangerous. Kim Woo called it hope. "I have made plants that can heal sick worlds," Kim Woo said. "Plants that can bring life back to places where life has died. How is helping people dangerous?" Teth slammed one of his 4 hands on his chair. "Because your plants do not just survive in harsh conditions. They change those conditions. They make dead worlds into living worlds. They spread like wildfire across entire planets. What happens when they spread to worlds that are not dead? What happens when they change worlds that are already alive and healthy? Kim Woo had heard this argument before. The council was afraid that his plants would somehow take over the galaxy. They thought Earth life was like a disease that would destroy everything it touched. My plants work with existing life, Kim Woo said. They do not destroy it. They help it grow stronger. You cannot promise that, said the fourth council member, a floating blob of green gas with yellow lights for eyes. Life from one world might poison life from another world. Your Earth plants might kill alien plants without meaning to. Have you tested this? Kim Woo asked. Have you actually tried to see what would happen? Or are you just afraid of possibilities? The blob creatures. Lights flashed angry red. We do not need to test poison to know it is deadly. Kim Woo realized he would never convince them. These aliens had ruled the galaxy for so long that they could not imagine any other way of doing things. They saw any change as a threat to their power. The trial continued for another hour. One by one, each council member explained why Kim Woo's work was too dangerous to allow. They talked about balance and stability and the need to keep things the same. They never talked about the millions of people dying on sick worlds. They never talked about the children who would never see clean air or growing plants. Finally, Teth stood up for the last time. Human Kim Woo, the Galactic Council finds you guilty of all charges. Your punishment is exile to the dead moon Keth 9 in the outer void. You will be given basic survival supplies for 30 days. After that, you will live or die based on your own actions. Kim Woo felt his heart beat faster. Keth 9 was famous throughout the galaxy as a place where nothing could live. The air was poison. The soil was full of deadly metals. The radiation from the nearby star would kill most species in days. The council was sending him there to die slowly and painfully. Do you have any last words? Teth asked. Kim Woo stood up, as much as his chains would allow. He looked each council member in the eyes. I have seeds, he said simply, hidden where you cannot find them. If I die on Keth 9, the seeds die with me. But if I live, I will plant them. And something amazing will grow. The council members looked at each other nervously. They had searched Kim Woo's belongings and found nothing. They did not know about the special container hidden inside his body, protected by bioengineered tissue that would not show up on their scanners. Guards came to take Kim Woo away. As they led him from the chamber, he heard Teth's voice one last time. Nothing grows on Keth 9, human. Nothing has grown there for 10,000 years. Nothing ever will. Kim Woo smiled as the guards dragged him toward the prison transport ship. The council had made a mistake. They thought they were sending him to die on a dead world. Instead, they were giving him the perfect place to prove that dead things could live again. The seeds in his body were warm against his ribs. Soon, he would plant them in impossible soil under an alien sun, and then the galaxy would see what humans could really do. 6 months had passed since Kim Woo crashed on the dead moon called Keth 9. The Galactic Council thought he would be dead by now. Most aliens would have died within days on this poisoned world. But Kim Woo was still alive, and he was doing something impossible. The crashed prison pod lay broken on the gray rocks. Kim Woo had turned it into his home. He used metal sheets from the pod to build walls. He sealed cracks with mud made from ground rocks and his own spit. The small shelter kept out the worst of the toxic wind that blew across the empty moon. Inside his shelter, Kim Woo worked every day. His hands were dirty and cut from handling sharp rocks. His face was thin from eating so little food, but his eyes were bright with hope. On a metal table made from pod parts, he had built something amazing. It was a small growing box. Kim Woo had used broken glass from the pod's windows to make a clear cover. Inside the box was soil he had made himself. He mixed ground rocks with waste from his body. He added drops of water he cleaned through cloth filters. The soil looked black and rich. In this soil, green shoots were growing. Kim Woo knelt by the box every morning. He whispered to the tiny plants like they were his children. Come on, little ones, he said. Show them what Earth life can do. The plants were potato shoots. They should have died immediately on Keth 9. The air was full of poison gas. The soil had metals that killed most life. Radiation from the dead sun beat down on everything. But somehow, these small green leaves were growing stronger each day. Kim Woo had done something the Galactic Council said was impossible. He had changed himself and the plants at the same time. When he was young, he learned how to alter living things by changing their smallest parts. The Council made this illegal because they were afraid. But Kim Woo kept learning in secret. Now, he used this knowledge to survive. Each day he took tiny samples of his own blood. He mixed it with water and fed it to the plants. His body was slowly learning to handle the moon's poison. As he changed, he helped the plants change too. The potato plants grew taller. Their leaves turned from light green to dark green. Kim Woo touched one leaf gently. It felt strong and thick. Normal potato plants had thin, soft leaves. These leaves were different. They were tough enough to handle poison air. "You're beautiful," Kim Woo told the plants. He smiled for the first time in months. At night, Kim Woo lay on his thin bed made from pod padding. He looked up through a crack in his shelter roof. The stars looked cold and far away. He thought about Earth, where flowers bloomed in spring and trees gave shade in summer. He thought about his small apartment where he used to grow herbs on the windowsill. The Galactic Council had taken all of that away. They said humans were too dangerous. They said humans changed things that should stay the same. Kim Woo touched the hidden container in his stomach where more seeds waited. Maybe the Council was right to be afraid. Every few days, Kim Woo went outside to collect water. He had found a place where ice formed at night in a crack between rocks. He melted the ice carefully and cleaned it through layers of cloth. Water was precious here. Every drop mattered. On one of these trips, Kim Woo saw something that made him stop and stare. Near his shelter, the gray rocks looked different. Where water from his shelter had dripped onto the ground, the rocks were changing color. They looked less gray and more brown. Kim Woo knelt and touched the rocks. They felt softer than before. "The plants are helping," he whispered. Even through the walls of his shelter, his growing box was changing the world around it. Kim Woo went back inside and looked at his potato plants. They were now as tall as his hand. Small roots showed through the clear bottom of the growing box. The roots were white and strong. But more importantly, they were doing something amazing. The soil around the roots was getting cleaner. Kim Woo had tools he made from pod parts to test the soil. The readings showed less poison and fewer deadly metals each day. The plants were eating the bad things in the soil and turning them into food for themselves. "This could work," Kim Woo said out loud. His voice echoed in the small shelter. "This could really work." He began to plan. The growing box was too small. He needed more space, more plants, more life. Kim Woo looked at his remaining seeds. He had corn, soybeans, and tomatoes hidden in his body. Each type of seed could do different things. Corn could clean the air. Soybeans could make the soil better. Tomatoes could grow in almost any condition, but first he needed to test his potato plants outside. Kim Woo built a small outdoor growing area using pod metal and rocks. He made it close to his shelter where he could watch it carefully. When his potato plants were strong enough, he would move them outside. The days passed slowly. Kim Woo ate very little food each day to make his supplies last longer. He was getting thinner, but he felt strong inside. Every morning he checked his plants. Every evening he planned for tomorrow. One morning, Kim Woo saw something wonderful. His potato plants had small white flowers. On a dead moon, where nothing had bloomed for 10,000 years, earth flowers were opening their petals to an alien sun. Kim Woo cried that day. He cried for joy and hope in the beauty of life that refused to give up. He cried for all the people on Earth who would never know what their son had done here. He cried because he was alone, but no longer afraid. The Galactic Council thought they had sent him here to die. Instead, they had sent him here to plant the first seeds of something incredible. Kim Woo wiped his eyes and got back to work. His garden was just beginning. 2 years had passed since Kim Woo first arrived on Keth 9. The Galactic Council had forgotten about him. They believed he was dead and buried under the gray rocks of the poisoned moon. They were very wrong. Kim Woo stood in the middle of his garden and smiled. What started as one small growing box had become something amazing. Green plants covered the ground as far as he could walk in 10 minutes. Potato plants grew in neat rows. Corn stalks reached toward the alien sky. Soybean plants covered the spaces between. The air above his garden was clean and fresh. The garden was not just alive. It was healing the dead moon. Kim Woo walked between the rows of plants every morning. His feet followed paths he had made by walking the same way for months. The soil under his feet was dark and rich. It smelled like the earth gardens he remembered from his childhood. But this soil was special. It was working to fix everything wrong with Keith 9. He stopped next to a corn plant that was taller than his head. The corn had thick yellow kernels that hung heavy on strong stalks. But these were not normal corn plants. Kim Woo had changed them, just like he changed himself. The corn plants breathed in the poison gas that filled Keth 9's air. They cleaned it inside their green leaves and breathed out pure oxygen. "Good job," Kim Woo said to the corn plant. He patted its thick stalk like he was petting a friendly dog. The potato plants were even more amazing. Kim Woo dug up one potato to check on it. The potato was large and purple instead of brown. When he tested it with his tools, he found something incredible. The potato had absorbed all the deadly metals from the soil. Inside the potato, the metals were locked away safely. The soil around the potato was now clean enough for other plants to grow. Kim Woo cooked and ate the purple potato that night. His body had changed enough to handle the metals inside it. In fact, the metals made him stronger. His human body turned the poison into useful things he needed to stay healthy. The soybean plants were the most helpful of all. Their roots went deep into the ground and spread far in all directions. Wherever the roots touched, they left behind tiny bacteria that made the soil better. The bacteria ate rocks and turned them into food for plants. They cleaned poison from deep underground and brought good minerals up to the surface. But the most amazing thing was what happened to the air around the garden. Kim Woo had built a simple weather station from crashed pod parts. Every day he checked the readings. The air was getting cleaner. The oxygen levels were going up. The poison gas levels were going down. His plants were changing the entire atmosphere of the moon. Kim Woo expanded his garden every few weeks. He planted new seeds in the soil his existing plants had cleaned. Each new section grew faster and stronger than the last. The plants were learning from each other. They shared nutrients through their connected roots. They warned each other about dangers through chemical signals in the air. At night, Kim Woo sat outside his shelter and looked at his garden. In the moonlight, the plants looked silver and magical. He could hear them growing. Leaves rustled in the wind they were creating. Roots creaked as they pushed deeper into the ground. Even the silence was different now. It was the peaceful quiet of a world coming back to life. One day, Kim Woo saw lights in the sky. A spaceship was coming toward Keth 9. His heart beat fast. Had the Galactic Council come to check on his dead body? Kim Woo ran to his shelter and watched through a crack in the wall. The ship landed far from his garden. It was a small survey ship, not a council warship. Kim Woo stayed hidden and watched. 2 aliens in protective suits walked out of the ship. They carried equipment for testing air and soil. They moved slowly and carefully, like they were afraid. The moon might hurt them. The aliens were Thalians. Kim Woo recognized their long arms and silver skin from his time in council prison. Thalians were known for being very curious about science. They asked questions about everything and loved to discover new things. Kim Woo watched the Thalians walk around for several hours. They took samples of soil and air. They pointed their equipment at everything and took notes on small computers. But they stayed far away from his garden. From where they were, the garden just looked like a green spot on the horizon. One of the Thalians was younger than the other. She kept looking toward the garden and talking excitedly. The older Thalian seemed nervous and wanted to leave quickly. Kim Woo could not hear their words, but he could see their body language. The young one wanted to investigate. The old one wanted to go home. Finally, the young Thalian convinced the older one to move closer to the garden. Kim Woo held his breath as they walked toward his life's work. When they got close enough to see the plants clearly, both aliens stopped walking. They stood very still for a long time. Then the young Thalian started running between the plants. She touched leaves and smelled flowers. She took pictures of everything. She danced in the clean air above the soybeans. Kim Woo had never seen a Thalian dance before. It made him happy. The older Thalian was more careful. He tested the air with his equipment. Kim Woo saw his silver face change when he read the results. The air was breathable. On a moon where breathing meant death, the air was now safe for most alien species. The two Thalians spent the whole day in Kim Woo's garden. They collected samples of plants, soil, and air. They took thousands of pictures. When evening came, they returned to their ship. But before they left, the young Thalian did something surprising. She left a small package near the edge of the garden. Then she and the older Thalian flew away into space. Kim Woo waited until dark before going to get the package. Inside, he found nutrient tablets, clean water, and a note written in simple galactic common language. The note said, "For the gardener of impossible things. Your work is beautiful. Be careful who finds out." The note was signed, Dr. Nira. Kim Woo held the note and smiled. He was not alone anymore. Someone else believed in what he was doing. Someone else saw that dead things could live again. Kim Woo looked at his garden under the stars and began planning how to make it even bigger. The Galactic Council thought dead worlds had to stay dead forever. Kim Woo was going to prove them wrong. 3 years had passed since Kim Woo was sent to die on Keth 9. He was not dead. Instead, he had created something that was changing the entire galaxy. Dr. Nira stood in her laboratory on the Thalian homeworld of Senthor. Her long silver fingers held a small vial filled with seeds. These were not ordinary seeds. They came from Kim Woo's impossible garden on the dead moon. Nira had been studying them for months, and what she learned made her afraid and excited at the same time. The seeds were alive in ways that should not be possible. They could survive in poison air, deadly soil, and killing radiation. But more than that, they made everything around them better. Wherever these plants grew, death turned into life. Nira had done something that could get her killed by the Galactic Council. She had secretly sent Kim Woo's seeds to 12 different worlds. All of these worlds were dying or already dead. The Council had written them off as hopeless. But Nira wanted to see what would happen if impossible plants tried to grow in impossible places. The results were beyond her wildest dreams. On Hendith, a world dying from a plague that killed billions, Kim Woo's medicinal herbs were curing diseases that no medicine could touch. The plants grew wild across the poisoned continents. People who ate the herbs stopped being sick. People who breathed the clean air the plants made felt strong again. For the first time in 50 years, children were being born healthy on Hendith. Nira read the secret reports that came to her from Hendith every week. The planetary governor was afraid to tell the council what was happening. He was supposed to manage the death of his world quietly. Instead, his world was coming back to life. Hospitals were closing because no one was getting sick. Farms were producing food again. The governor did not know what to do. On the mining world of Krell 7, the story was the same but different. Krell 7 had been strip-mined for 300 years. The air was full of toxic dust. The ground was covered with poisonous waste. Most of the miners wore breathing masks their entire lives. Many died young from lung disease. Kim Woo's air-cleaning plants changed everything. They grew in the toxic waste and turned it into clean soil. They breathed in the poisonous dust and breathed out pure air. Within months, miners were taking off their masks for the first time in their lives. They were breathing clean air on a world that had not had clean air for centuries. The reports kept coming from other worlds. On the desert planet Zakros, Kim Woo's modified crops were growing in sand where nothing had lived for thousands of years. On the frozen world of Helix Prime, his cold-resistant plants were melting ice and creating flowing rivers. Each world was different, But the story was always the same. Life was winning against death. Nira knew she had to be careful. The Galactic Council did not like surprises. They especially did not like humans who changed things that were supposed to stay the same. But the evidence was too strong to ignore. Kim Woo had discovered something that could save entire worlds. She decided to visit him again. Nira took a small, fast ship to Keth 9. She flew alone this time, without telling anyone where she was going. When she landed on the moon, she could not believe what she saw. Kim Woo's garden now covered most of the small moon. Green plants grew everywhere she looked. Clean rivers flowed between the crops. The air was so pure she could breathe it without any protection. Small animals had somehow appeared and were living happily among the plants. Keth 9 was not a dead moon anymore. It was a paradise. Kim Woo was waiting for her at the landing site. He looked older and thinner than before, but his eyes were bright with happiness. He wore simple clothes made from plant fibers he had grown himself. His skin had a slight green tint from years of changing his body to match his plants. "Dr. Nira," Kim Woo said with a smile, "I hoped you would come back." "What you have done here is impossible," Nira said. She looked around at the green world that used to be gray and dead. "How did you do it?" Kim Woo laughed. "I just refuse to let things stay dead. Humans are good at that." They walked through the garden together. Kim Woo showed Nira plants she had never seen before. Some looked like earth crops but were clearly different. Others were completely new, created by mixing earth genetics with local minerals and conditions. All of them were beautiful and healthy. "The council thinks dead worlds have to stay dead," Kim Woo said as they walked. "But death is just another kind of soil. You can grow new life in it if you know how." Nira told Kim Woo about the other worlds, where his seeds were growing. She showed him pictures and reports from 12 different planets. Kim Woo's face lit up with joy as he saw his plants healing world after world. "They are not just surviving," Kim Woo said with wonder. "They are thriving. They are making friends with the local conditions and learning from them." But then Kim Woo stumbled and almost fell. Nira caught his arm and was shocked by how thin it felt. She looked at his face more carefully and saw the truth that frightened her. Kim Woo was dying. "What is wrong?" she asked. Kim Woo sat down on a rock next to a flowing stream. "I have been changing myself for 3 years to survive here and help the plants grow. My body is not human anymore. It is something new. But the changes are killing me slowly." Nira felt tears in her silver eyes. "Can you fix it?" "Maybe," Kim Woo said, "but I would need help. I would need equipment and medicines that I cannot make here. I would need scientists who understand what I have done to myself." Nira made a decision that would change her life forever. "Then we need to tell the council the truth, all of it." Kim Woo looked at her with surprise. "They will kill us both." "Maybe," Nira said, "but they might also realize that they made a terrible mistake. Dead worlds do not have to stay dead. You have proven that. The galaxy needs to know." Kim Woo was quiet for a long time. He looked at his garden, at the green life he had created from gray death. Finally, he nodded. "If telling the truth can help more worlds live again, then we should tell the truth." Nira contacted the Galactic Council that same day. She sent them everything. Pictures of Kim Woo's garden, reports from the 12 worlds where his seeds were growing, scientific data proving that dead worlds could be healed. She also sent a message saying that Kim Woo was dying and needed help immediately. The response came faster than expected. A council fleet was already on its way to Keth 9. But they were not coming to arrest Kim Woo. They were coming to save his life and learn from what he had done. The galaxy was about to change forever. 5 years had passed since Kim Woo was sent to die on Keth 9. Now he stood in the same council chambers where he had been condemned, but everything was different. The council room was much larger than before. Where once 7 alien species had ruled the galaxy, now representatives from 50 different worlds sat in a great circle. Many of these worlds had been dead or dying before Kim Woo's seeds brought them back to life. Their representatives looked healthy and happy. The air in the chamber smelled fresh and clean, filtered through living plants that grew in every corner. Kim Woo wore simple green robes made from fibers grown in his garden. His hair was now completely white, and his skin still had the slight, green tint that showed how much he had changed himself. But he was alive and healthy, saved by the best doctors from across the galaxy working together. Ambassador Teth, the same alien prosecutor who had condemned Kim Woo years ago, now stood to introduce him. Teth's voice was different now. Instead of anger and fear, it carried respect and wonder. "Representatives of the Galactic Council," Teth said, "I present to you Kim Woo of Earth, our first director of biological renaissance." The representatives clapped their hands, tentacles, and claws together. The sound filled the chamber like gentle rain. Kim Woo bowed to show his respect for all of them. "5 years ago, I stood here as a criminal," Kim Woo said. His voice was quiet, but everyone could hear him clearly. "You sent me to die because you were afraid of what humans might do to your perfect, unchanging galaxy. You were right to be afraid, but not for the reasons you thought." Kim Woo touched a control panel, and the chamber's walls became giant screens. Images appeared showing dozens of worlds. All of them were green and alive and beautiful. "You were afraid that humans would change things," Kim Woo continued. "We did. We changed death into life. We changed hopelessness into hope. We changed the idea that some things cannot be fixed." The first image showed Hendith, the plague world. Where once there had been gray cities full of sick and dying people, now there were green parks where healthy children played. Hospitals had been turned into schools. Graveyards had become gardens. "On Hendith, no one has died from the old plague in 2 years, Kim Woo said. "The medicinal plants we grew there have created new medicines that work better than anything we had before. But more importantly, they taught us that sickness is just another kind of soil where health can grow." The next image showed Krell 7, the mining world. The toxic waste dumps were now fertile fields. The poisoned air was now clean enough for birds to fly in. The miners who used to die young were now living long, healthy lives. "On Krell 7, we learned that poison is just food that life has not learned to eat yet," Kim Woo said. "Once we taught our plants how to eat poison, they taught the world how to be clean again." Image after image showed worlds that had been hopeless becoming worlds full of life. Desert planets with flowing rivers, frozen planets with growing forests, dead moons that were now gardens among the stars. Dr. Nira stood up from her seat among the Thalian representatives. She had been promoted to lead scientist for the Biological Renaissance Project. "Director Kim," she said, "please tell the Council about the new worlds." Kim Woo smiled and touched the control panel again. New images appeared. These showed worlds beyond the edge of the galaxy, in places where no one had ever thought life could exist. "We are not finished," Kim Woo said. "Life on Earth taught me that there is no place too harsh, no situation too hopeless, no world too dead for life to find a way. We have sent seeds to worlds orbiting black holes, planets made of pure crystal, and moons where the air is liquid metal. Early reports say that life is taking hold even there." The representatives whispered to each other in dozens of different languages. Some sounded excited, others sounded amazed. None sounded afraid anymore. Ambassador Teth stood up again. "Director Kim, when we first met, I said that humans were too dangerous because you change things that should not be changed. I was wrong about what should not be changed, but I was right about humans being dangerous." Kim Woo raised an eyebrow. "Dangerous?" "Dangerous to death," Teth said with what might have been a smile on his alien face. "Dangerous to hopelessness. Dangerous to the idea that anything is truly impossible." The representatives laughed and clapped. Again, Kim Woo felt warm inside. These beings who had once feared humans now trusted them to help heal the galaxy. "What will you do next?" asked a representative from the crystal world of Viridian. Kim Woo looked around the chamber at all the different faces from all the different worlds. "We will keep planting," he said. "Every world that wants our help will get it. Every species that wants to learn our methods can learn them. We will share everything we know because life grows better when it grows together." After the formal meeting ended, Kim Woo walked through the council station's new botanical gardens. These gardens mixed plants from hundreds of different worlds. Earth roses grew next to thallium crystal flowers. Keth-9 potatoes shared soil with Hendith healing herbs. Everything grew together in harmony. Dr. Nira joined him as he walked. "Do you ever regret what happened?" she asked. "Being sent to die, having to change yourself so much, spending years alone." Kim Woo stopped next to a fountain where water flowed over roots from his original garden on Keth-9. "No," he said. "I learned something important during those lonely years. Death is not the opposite of life. Death is just life waiting for someone stubborn enough to wake it up." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small container. Inside were seeds, unlike any that had existed before. These seeds were designed for the harshest conditions in the universe. They could grow in the vacuum of space, in the heart of stars, in dimensions where physics worked differently. "Where will you plant those?" Nira asked. Kim Woo looked up at the stars visible through the garden's clear dome. "Everywhere," he said. "There are galaxies beyond this one where nothing has ever grown. There are universes next to ours where life has never existed. Humans have a saying, 'Bloom where you are planted.' But I learned something better on Keth-9. "What did you learn?" Kim Woo smiled and held the seeds up to catch the starlight. "Plant yourself where nothing else will bloom. That is where you are needed most." Years later, when travelers passed through the space where Keth-9 used to orbit, they would see something incredible. The dead moon had grown so much life that it had become a small green planet. Its gravity pulled in asteroids and comets, which became soil for even more plants. What started as one man's garden had become a world. But Kim Woo was no longer there. He was somewhere beyond the edge of the galaxy, planting seeds in impossible places, proving once again that humans were indeed dangerous to everything that wanted to stay dead forever. On his old desk in the council chambers, he left a note for whoever would continue his work. It said, "Life finds a way, but sometimes it needs a human to show it how."